Have you ever been caught in someone else's debt? Naomi Carter's hands trembled as she pushed open the door to her apartment, already knowing something was terribly wrong. The lock had been broken, wood splintered around the frame like something had been forced through with brutal efficiency. Her heart hammered in her chest as she stepped inside, reaching for her phone to call 911. "Maya?" she called out, her voice shaking. "Maya, are you home?" Silence. The apartment looked like a tornado had torn through it. Furniture was overturned, cushions slashed open, drawers pulled out, and their contents scattered across the floor. But it wasn't the destruction that made Naomi's blood run cold. It was the single red envelope sitting on the kitchen counter, positioned with deliberate precision among the chaos. Naomi's fingers shook as she picked it up. Inside was a note written in elegant handwriting that somehow made the words even more terrifying. "Your sister Maya Carter has accumulated a debt of $250,000. She has 72 hours to pay or face the consequences. Do not involve the police. Do not try to run. We know where you live, where you work, where your mother is in the nursing home on Maple Street. Dante Moretti." The note fell from Naomi's numb fingers. $250,000. That was impossible. Maya was 23 years old, working as a bartender while supposedly going to community college. How could she possibly owe that kind of money? Naomi tried calling Maya's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. She tried Maya's best friend, her coworkers, everyone she could think of. Nobody had seen her since yesterday. Finally, at 11 o'clock at night, Naomi's phone rang. "Naomi?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper, thick with tears. "Maya, oh my God, where are you? What happened?" "The apartment. I'm sorry," Maya sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I messed up. I messed up so bad. Just tell me where you are. We'll figure this out. I can't. They're watching me. They said if I try to run, they'll hurt you and Mom. Naomi, they're not playing around. These people are dangerous." "Who are they? This Dante Moretti person?" Maya's voice dropped to a terrified whisper. "He runs half the city. Casinos, clubs, everything. I thought I could just... I was winning at first. I kept winning. And when I started losing, they kept giving me credit. They said it was fine, that I was good for it. But then the interest just kept piling up and $250,000, Maya. How could you let it get that bad?" "I didn't mean to. I kept thinking I could win it back. They kept encouraging me, bringing me drinks, making me feel special. And then yesterday, they just cut me off. Said I had to pay up or else." Maya's sobs grew louder. "I don't have that kind of money. I don't have any money. What am I going to do?" Naomi felt like the floor had dropped out from under her. She made $38,000 a year as a nurse at City General Hospital. She had maybe $15,000 in savings. She was already stretched thin, paying for their mother's memory care facility after she'd been diagnosed with early-onset Alzheimer's. "Listen to me," Naomi said, forcing herself to sound calmer than she felt. "Where are you right now?" "I'm at a motel. The Riverside Inn on 23rd Street. Room 215. Stay there. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except me. I'm going to figure this out." "How?" "Naomi, you can't pay this. Nobody can pay this. I'll think of something. Just stay put." After she hung up, Naomi sat in her destroyed living room and tried to think. She could sell everything she owned and maybe come up with $20,000. She could take out loans, but no bank would give her anything close to what Maya owed. She could go to the police. But the note had been clear. Involve the authorities, and people would get hurt. That left only one option. An option that made her stomach turn, but that she couldn't ignore. She had to go to Dante Moretti herself and beg for mercy, for more time, for some kind of payment plan. It was a long shot, but it was all she had. The next morning, Naomi took a personal day from work and spent 3 hours researching Dante Moretti. What she found made her blood run cold. He was 34 years old, the youngest son of the Moretti family, one of the most powerful organized crime families in the city. His father had died 5 years ago, and Dante had taken over the family business with ruthless efficiency. There were rumors of violence, of rivals who had disappeared, of business owners who paid protection money to keep their shops safe. But there were also stories of charity events, of donations to children's hospitals, of scholarship funds for underprivileged kids. The man was a walking contradiction. Most importantly, Dante Moretti owned the Crimson Room, an exclusive casino and lounge where high rollers gambled away fortunes while beautiful people served them expensive drinks. That was almost certainly where Maya had gotten into trouble. Naomi dressed carefully that evening in the most professional outfit she owned. A black pencil skirt, a crisp white blouse, and her only pair of heels that didn't have scuff marks. She pulled her black hair into a neat bun at the nape of her neck, applied minimal makeup to her brown skin, and tried to look like someone who should be taken seriously rather than someone who was terrified out of her mind. The Crimson Room was located in a historic building downtown, its facade elegant and understated. A doorman in a tailored suit stood at the entrance, looking her up and down with barely concealed suspicion. "I need to see Mr. Moretti," Naomi said, proud that her voice didn't shake. "Do you have an appointment?" "No, but it's about Maya Carter. He'll know what that means." The doorman's expression changed slightly, recognition flickering in his eyes. He spoke into a small radio, listened to the response, and then nodded. "Third floor. Someone will meet you at the elevator." The casino floor was exactly what Naomi had imagined. Dim lighting, the constant sound of slot machines and cards shuffling, beautiful people in expensive clothes moving between tables. The air smelled like cigars and expensive perfume. Naomi kept her eyes straight ahead as she walked to the elevator, trying to ignore the curious looks from the patrons. True to the doorman's word, a man was waiting when the elevator doors opened on the third floor. He was tall and broad, with the kind of face that had seen violence and hadn't flinched. "Miss Carter?" he asked. "Yes. This way." He led her down a hallway lined with expensive artwork and thick carpeting that muffled all sound. At the end of the hall was a set of double doors made of dark wood. The man knocked twice, waited for a response. Naomi couldn't hear, and then opened the door. "The sister," he announced, and stepped aside. Naomi's first thought when she saw Dante Moretti was that the photographs hadn't done him justice. He sat behind an enormous desk made of dark mahogany, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Naomi's car. He was tall, even seated, with broad shoulders and the kind of presence that dominated a room. His face was all sharp angles and hard lines, with olive skin, a strong jaw, and dark hair styled with casual perfection. But it was his eyes that caught her. Green, pale, and cold as ice, studying her with an intensity that made her feel like he could see straight through to her soul. "Naomi Carter," he said, his voice deep and slightly accented. "Italian," she realized. "I wondered if you would come." "You know who I am?" Naomi asked, hating how small her voice sounded. "Of course. I make it my business to know about the people who owe me money." He gestured to one of the leather chairs facing his desk. "Sit." It wasn't a request. Naomi sat, her hands clasped tightly in her lap to stop them from shaking. Dante leaned back in his chair, studying her with those unsettling eyes. "Your sister has not contacted me. She has not attempted to pay even a fraction of what she owes, and now you are here instead. Why?" "Because Maya is 23 years old and stupid," Naomi said, surprised by the edge in her own voice. "Because she made a terrible mistake. But she's still my sister, and I can't just let her die for it." "Die?" Dante's eyebrows rose slightly. "Who said anything about dying? Your note said she would face consequences if she didn't pay." "Consequences? Yes. But I am not in the business of killing young women over gambling debts. I am not a monster, Miss Carter, despite what you may have heard." "Then what were you planning to do?" Dante stood and walked to the window, his hands in his pockets. From this height, the city spread out below them, glittering with lights. "Your sister signed a contract when she took her first line of credit. In that contract, she agreed that if she failed to pay, I could seize all her assets and garnish her wages until the debt was satisfied. Of course, your sister has no assets and makes minimum wage at a bar, so that would take approximately 20 years, but the contract is legally binding." 20 years? Naomi felt sick. Perhaps less if she got a better job. But yes, essentially, your sister's life would belong to me until the debt was paid. He turned to face her. "However, you are here now, so tell me, Miss Carter, what are you proposing?" Naomi took a deep breath. "I want to make a deal. Let Maya go. Transfer her debt to me. I'll work it off somehow. I make more money than she does, and I'm more responsible." "You would take on your sister's debt? $250,000? That is quite a sacrifice." "She's my sister. Family loyalty. How admirable." Something that might have been respect flickered in his cold eyes. "But I have to ask, Miss Carter, what makes you think I would agree to this? Your sister's debt is her responsibility, not yours. Because keeping Maya under your thumb for 20 years is useless to you. She's irresponsible, she's immature, and she'll probably try to run the first chance she gets. I, on the other hand, have a career. A mother in a care facility who depends on me, and no way to disappear even if I wanted to. I'm a much better investment. Dante was quiet for a long moment, studying her with an intensity that made Naomi's skin prickle. You are intelligent, he said finally, and brave. Foolish perhaps, but brave. Tell me, Miss Carter, what do you do for work? I'm a nurse. Labor and delivery at City General. A nurse? He said it as if tasting the word. How long have you been doing that? 6 years. And you are how old? 28. Dante opened a drawer in his desk and pulled out a file. Naomi watched in growing horror as he flipped through what was clearly an extensive dossier on her life. Her employment history, her credit score, her address, her mother's medical bills. He had researched her just as thoroughly as she had researched him. You have excellent credit, Dante said, looking up from the file. You are never late with payments, even when it must be difficult. You have worked at the same hospital for 6 years with consistently positive reviews. You visit your mother every Sunday without fail. You have no criminal record, not even a parking ticket. You are, by all accounts, a responsible and reliable person. Is that supposed to be a compliment or an insult? The corner of Dante's mouth twitched, might have been the beginning of a smile. An observation. Your sister is lucky to have you. Though I wonder if she appreciates it. She's young. She'll learn. Perhaps. Dante closed the file. Very. Well, Miss Carter. I will make you a deal. Your sister's debt will be transferred to you. Effective immediately. She walks away free and clear. Relief flooded through Naomi so intensely she felt dizzy. Thank you. Thank you so much. I am not finished. Dante's voice cut through her gratitude like a knife. In exchange for taking on this debt, you will work for me. Naomi's relief evaporated. Work for you? Doing what? I have various business interests that require skilled professionals. You will work in one of my establishments until your debt is paid. For 20 years? Not necessarily. That depends on how hard you work and how valuable you make yourself. Dante stood again, walking around his desk to stand in front of her. Up close, he was even more intimidating, tall and powerful and radiating an authority that made her want to back away. But she held her ground. What kind of establishments? Naomi asked, her throat tight with fear. Legal ones, I assure, to you. Restaurants, hotels, lounges, nothing that would compromise your morals if that is what concerns you. And if I refuse, then your sister remains responsible for her own debt. And I will pursue collection with the full force of my legal rights and considerable resources. Naomi felt trapped, cornered like an animal. But she had known this wouldn't be easy. She had known there would be a price. What exactly would I be doing? That depends on where I need you most. You have medical training, which is valuable. You are intelligent, reliable, and presentable. I am sure I can find numerous uses for your skills. The way he said, uses, made Naomi's skin crawl. But what choice did she have? Fine, she said, lifting her chin. I'll do it. But I have conditions. Dante's eyebrows rose. You are in no position to negotiate conditions. I'm in every position to negotiate if you want me to work for you willingly, instead of fighting you every step of the way. Naomi stood, forcing herself to meet his eyes even though it made her heart race. First, nothing illegal. I won't do anything that could cost me my nursing license or put me in legal jeopardy. Agreed. Second, I need to keep my job at the hospital for now. I can work for you on nights and weekends, but I can't just abandon my patients or my career. Dante considered this. For now, yes, but eventually, you will work for me full-time. Eventually, Naomi agreed, though the word tasted bitter. And third, my sister stays completely out of this. She doesn't come back to your casino. She doesn't contact you. She doesn't have anything to do with your business. She's free. Completely. Done. Dante extended his hand. Do we have a deal, Miss Carter? Naomi looked at his hand, strong and perfectly manicured, and knew that shaking it would change her life forever. But Maya was her baby sister. The little girl Naomi had helped raise after their father left when they were kids. The girl who used to crawl into Naomi's bed during thunderstorms and begged her to read just one more chapter before bedtime. She couldn't abandon her now, even if it meant selling herself into servitude to a man who terrified her. She shook his hand. His grip was firm and warm, his skin surprisingly soft for someone who presumably dealt in violence. We have a deal, Naomi said. Dante held her hand a moment longer than necessary, his green eyes searching hers. You are either very brave or very foolish, Naomi Carter. I have not decided which yet. Neither have I. This time he did smile, a small, dangerous curve of his lips that made Naomi's stomach flip. Report here, tomorrow, at 8 p.m. Wear something nice. You will be working at Il Cielo, my restaurant in the financial district. As what? As whatever I need you to be. He released her hand and walked back to his desk, already dismissing her from his attention. Marco will show you out. And Miss Carter? Do not make me regret this. Arrangement. I do not give second chances. Neither do I, Naomi said, surprised by her own boldness. Dante looked up, something that might have been approval flickering in his eyes. Good. We understand each other. The next evening, Naomi stood outside Il Cielo, her hands shaking as she tried to build up the courage to go inside. The restaurant was everything she had expected. Elegant, expensive, and intimidating. Through the windows, she could see beautiful people dining at tables covered in white linens, servers moving with practiced grace, and soft lighting that made everything look golden and warm. She was wearing a simple black dress and heels, the nicest outfit she owned that wasn't her work scrubs. Her hair was down tonight, falling in natural curls around her shoulders, and she'd applied more makeup than usual to hide how terrified she was. Naomi Carter? A woman appeared at her elbow, tall and elegant with perfectly styled hair and a professional smile. I'm Sophia. Rossi, the manager here. Mr. Moretti said to expect you. That's me, Naomi said, trying to sound confident. Excellent. Come with me. I'll show you around. Il Cielo was even more beautiful inside than it had appeared from the street. The decor was sophisticated without being pretentious, with exposed brick walls, soft lighting from Edison bulbs, and an open kitchen where chefs worked with impressive precision. The dining room was about half full, with well-dressed patrons enjoying what smelled like incredible food. Mr. Moretti owns several restaurants, Sophia explained as she led Naomi through the dining room, but Il Cielo is his favorite. He comes here often to meet with business associates. What will I be doing exactly? Naomi asked. For tonight, you will be hosting, greeting guests, managing the reservation system, and making sure the dining room runs smoothly. It's not complicated, but it requires grace under pressure. Can you handle that? I'm a labor and delivery nurse. I can handle pressure. Sophia smiled, warmer this time. Good. I think you'll do well here. The evening started smoothly enough. Naomi greeted guests with a professional smile, seated them at their tables, and managed the reservation book with the same attention to detail she used for patient charts. It was surprisingly similar to working triage in the hospital, assessing priority, managing wait times, and keeping everyone calm even when things got hectic. Around 9 p.m., the front door opened and Dante Moretti walked in. He looked different than he had in his office, less formal, wearing dark slacks and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. His hair was slightly disheveled, as if he'd been running his hands through it, and there was a hardness around his eyes that suggested he'd had a difficult day. Mr. Moretti, Naomi said, proud that her voice remained steady. Good evening. Those pale green eyes locked on hers, and for a moment, something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Or perhaps just acknowledgement that their lives were now irrevocably intertwined. Miss Carter, he said, his accent making her name sound exotic. I see Sophia has put you to work already. She has. I think I'm getting the hang of it. Good. He glanced around the dining room, his gaze sharp and assessing. Is my usual table available? Yes, sir. This way. Naomi led him to a table in the back corner, positioned to have a clear view of both the entrance and the rest of the dining room. The location of someone who always needed to see danger coming. As she handed him the menu, Dante caught her wrist. His grip was gentle but firm, and Naomi's breath caught at the unexpected contact. You are doing well, he said quietly. Better than I expected for your first night. I'm a fast learner. I am beginning to see that. He released her wrist, but the warmth of his touch lingered. Bring me the usual. And Naomi? Yes. Thank you for keeping your word. Not everyone does. Before Naomi could respond, a group of men entered the restaurant. Dante's expression changed instantly, going cold and hard. The men were clearly here to see him, moving through the dining room with the confidence of people who didn't need permission to go anywhere. I have business, Dante said curtly. Send over a bottle of the Brunello and 4 glasses. Naomi watched as the men joined Dante at his table, their conversation immediately intense and hushed. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but she could read body language well enough to know it wasn't a friendly discussion. One of the men gestured aggressively, his face red with anger. Another leaned back with crossed arms, clearly skeptical about whatever Dante was proposing. Dante himself remained calm, his voice low and controlled even when the angry man raised his. There was something mesmerizing about watching him work, seeing the way he commanded respect and attention without ever raising his voice or losing his composure. "That's Carlo Benedetti and his associates," Sophia said quietly, appearing at Naomi's elbow. "They run the docks. There's been tension lately over shipping routes and territories." "Is it going to get violent?" Naomi asked, her nurse's instinct already assessing potential injuries and escape routes. "Not here. Mr. Moretti doesn't allow violence in his restaurants. It's bad for business." Sophia gave her a knowing look. "But I'd stay away from that table if I were you. When he's conducting business, he doesn't like to be disturbed." Naomi didn't need to be told twice. She threw herself into her work, greeting new guests and managing the increasingly busy dining room. But she couldn't help stealing glances at Dante's table, watching the way he negotiated and maneuvered, the way the other men gradually relaxed and even laughed at something he said. Whatever business was being conducted, Dante seemed to be winning. Around midnight, as the restaurant was starting to empty, Dante stood and shook hands with each of the men. They left looking satisfied, or at least not angry, and Dante walked over to where Naomi was organizing menus at the hostess stand. "You did well tonight," he said. "Sophia tells me you handled the dinner rush like you've been doing this for years." "Thank you. Though I'm not sure what any of this has to do with paying off my sister's debt." "Everything has to do with paying off your sister's debt," Dante said, his eyes intense. "I needed to see if you could be trusted, if you could handle pressure, if you could work in my world without falling apart. And you did. That is worth something. I'm glad I meet with your approval," Naomi said, unable to keep the sarcasm from her voice. Instead of getting angry, Dante smiled. "You have spirit. I like that. Most people are afraid to show me anything except fear or greed. But you show me what you really think. That is rare. Maybe I'm just too tired to pretend. Maybe." He studied her face, and Naomi found herself unable to look away. "Go home, Naomi. Get some rest. I will see you tomorrow night." "Tomorrow night? I thought this was just weekends." "I changed my mind. You will work here every Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday evening until further notice. The debt is large, and time is money." Naomi wanted to argue, but she was too exhausted. Instead, she just nodded and gathered her things, leaving Dante standing in the empty restaurant looking thoughtful. Over the next 3 weeks, Naomi fell into a grueling routine. She worked 12-hour shifts at the hospital, raced home to change, and then worked 5-hour shifts at Il Cielo. She was perpetually exhausted, surviving on coffee and adrenaline, but she refused to complain. This was the deal she had made, and she would honor it. Dante came to the restaurant at least 3 times a week, always for business meetings or dinners, with associates. Naomi learned to read his moods. The way his jaw tightened when he was angry, the way his eyes went cold when someone lied to him, the way his voice got quiet when he was issuing threats that sounded like polite conversation. She also learned that Sophia had been right about the violence. Dante never raised his voice in the restaurant, never made a scene. But Naomi would sometimes see men who had argued with him at dinner sporting bruises the next time they came in, or hear whispers about businesses that had burned down or deals that had gone bad. Dante Moretti was a dangerous man, and she was working for him. The reality of that became clear one Thursday night when a drunk patron grabbed Naomi's arm as she passed his table. "Hey, beautiful," he slurred, his grip painful. "Why don't you forget about work and come have a drink with me?" "Sir, please let go of my arm," Naomi said firmly but politely, the way she'd been trained to de-escalate aggressive patients. "Come on, don't be like that. Just one drink. Let her go." Dante's voice cut through the restaurant like a blade. He had appeared seemingly out of nowhere, his eyes locked on the man's hand around Naomi's arm. The drunk patron looked up, his face going pale as he recognized Dante. "Mr. Moretti, you were just leaving," Dante said, his voice deadly quiet. "And you will never set foot in one of my establishments again. Marco, escort this gentleman out and make sure he understands he is not welcome to return." And the drunk patron scrambled to leave without another word. Naomi rubbed her arm where his grip had left red marks on her brown skin. "Are you hurt?" Dante asked, his voice still hard. "I'm fine. It wasn't that bad. It was unacceptable." He caught her wrist gently, examining the marks with a frown. You will tell me immediately if anyone makes you uncomfortable. Do you? Understand? I can handle myself. I know you can. But you work for me now, which means you are under my protection. No one touches what is mine. What is mine? The words sent a strange shiver down Naomi's spine. She pulled her wrist back. I'm not yours. I just work for you. Dante's eyes met hers, and something intense and unreadable passed between them. For now, he said quietly. Go, take your break, and put ice on that arm. As the weeks turned into months, Naomi found herself thinking about Dante more than she wanted to admit. She told herself it was just because she was around him so much, because her life now revolved around paying off the debt that kept her tied to him. But the truth was more complicated than that. She had started to see beyond the cold exterior to the man underneath. She saw the way he treated his employees with respect and paid them generously. She saw the way he remembered small details about people's lives, asking about someone's sick child or a daughter's graduation. She saw the way he gave money to a single mother who couldn't pay her check and told her to come back when times were better. He was still dangerous, still ruthless when he needed to be. But he wasn't a monster. He was a man trying to survive in a brutal world while maintaining some shred of honor and humanity. And the way he looked at her sometimes, with an intensity that made her breath catch, suggested he was starting to see her differently too. The turning point came on a Friday night in October. The restaurant was busy, packed with patrons celebrating everything from birthdays to business deals. Naomi was managing the chaos with practiced efficiency when a woman walked in wearing a stunning red dress and an expression of pure fury. "Where is he?" the woman demanded in Italian, her voice cutting through the ambient noise. Sophia stepped forward. "Signora Benedetti, Mr. Moretti is not expecting. I don't care what he's expecting. Where is Dante?" Dante appeared from the back, his expression carefully neutral. "Isabella, what a surprise." "A surprise?" The woman stalked toward him, her heels clicking sharply against the floor. "You had my brother arrested, Dante." "My brother? Your brother tried to have me killed," Dante said calmly. "The authorities have proof. I merely provided them with the evidence." "Liar." Isabella raised her hand to slap him, but Dante caught her wrist easily. "Do not make a scene in my restaurant, Isabella. It is beneath both of us." "Beneath us? You have destroyed my family. Your family destroyed itself when they decided to break our agreement." Dante's voice remained calm, but there was steel underneath. "I gave Carlo every opportunity to resolve our differences peacefully. He chose violence. He chose betrayal. The consequences are his to bear." Isabella's eyes filled with tears of rage. "You will pay for this. I swear on my mother's grave. You will pay. If you wish to discuss this further, we can do so in private, but you will not threaten me in front of my staff and patrons. Now, you have two choices. You can leave quietly, or Marco will escort you out. Choose wisely." For a moment, Naomi thought Isabella might actually attack Dante. But finally, the woman spun on her heel and stalked out, slamming the door behind her with enough force to rattle the windows. The restaurant had gone completely silent, every patron and staff member frozen in place. Dante took a breath, smoothed down his shirt, and smiled as if nothing had happened. "Apologies for the interruption," he said pleasantly. "Please, continue your meals. The desserts are exceptional tonight, and I insist they are complimentary for everyone as an apology for the disturbance." Gradually, the conversations resumed, though the atmosphere remained tense. Dante caught Naomi's eye and gave a small nod toward his office in the back. She followed, her heart pounding. His office was smaller than the one at the Crimson Room, but elegantly appointed with dark wood furniture and expensive artwork. Dante poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter and downed it in one swallow. "Are you all right?" Naomi asked. "I am fine." He poured another drink, then seemed to think better of it and set the glass down. "Isabella is dramatic, but she is not dangerous. Her brother, on the other hand, tried to have me killed. He sent men to my home, men with guns." Naomi felt a chill run through her. "What happened?" "My security took care of it, and I made sure the authorities had everything they needed to prosecute Carlo to the fullest extent of the law." Dante leaned against his desk, suddenly looking tired. "This is my world, Naomi. Violence and betrayal and vendettas that stretch across generations. This is what you agreed to when you took on your sister's debt." "I know what I agreed to." "Do you?" He looked at her intently. "Do you really understand what it means to be connected to me? Danger, the moral compromises, the things you might see or hear that you can never speak about?" "I'm learning." Naomi said honestly. And I'm not running. Why not? Most people would. Because I keep my promises. Because my sister is free and safe. And that's what matters. And because, she hesitated, unsure if she should continue. Because, Dante prompted, moving closer to her. Because you're not what I expected. When I first came to you, I thought you were a monster. But you're not. You're complicated and dangerous and morally gray. But you're not a monster. Dante was very close now. Close enough that Naomi could smell his cologne. Something woody and masculine that made her head spin. You should be afraid of me, he said quietly. I am afraid of you. I'm just not letting it control me. Something shifted in Dante's expression, the careful control slipping to reveal raw hunger underneath. You are playing a dangerous game, Naomi Carter. Maybe I'm tired of playing. It's safe. The words were barely out of her mouth before Dante closed the distance between them, his hands coming up to frame her face. Tell me to stop, he said, his voice rough. Tell me this is a mistake and I will let you go. But Naomi didn't want him to stop. She had spent months fighting her attraction to him, telling herself it was just the situation, just the intensity of working for him. But the truth was simpler and more complicated than that. She wanted him. Don't stop, she whispered. Dante kissed her with a hunger that took her breath away, his mouth claiming hers with fierce possession. Naomi melted into him, her hands coming up to grip his shoulders as he pulled her closer. It was intense and overwhelming, and nothing like the careful, controlled version of himself that he showed the world. This was the real Dante Moretti. Passionate, demanding, and utterly compelling. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Dante rested his forehead against hers. This complicates things, he said. I know. You still owe me money. You still work for me. The power dynamic is completely unbalanced. I know that too. And you still want this? Naomi looked into those pale green eyes and made her choice. Yes. Then we do this properly, Dante said, stepping back and straightening his shirt. You will continue to work off your sister's debt as agreed. But outside of work, if you wish to see me, it will be as equals. I will not use my position to pressure you. And if I want to stop seeing you, then you stop. No questions, no consequences. Your employment and your debt remain separate from whatever happens between us personally. It was more respect than Naomi had expected, more consideration than most men in his position would have shown. Okay, she said. We can try that. Good. Dante smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his whole face. Then have dinner with me tomorrow night. Not here. Not for work. A real date. At a place where no one knows me and we can just be Naomi and Dante. I'd like that. Their relationship developed slowly over the following months, separate from her work at the restaurant. Dante took her to small, out-of-the-way places where they could talk without being recognized. He was surprisingly good company when he wasn't being a crime boss. Intelligent, well-read, with a dry sense of humor that caught her off guard. He told her about growing up in the Moretti family, about the pressure to live up to his father's legacy, about the brother who had died young and the sister who had married and moved to Italy to escape the family business. He told her about the impossible choices he'd had to make, the things he'd done that haunted him, the desire to create something legitimate and lasting rather than just maintaining his family's criminal empire. In turn, Naomi told him about her childhood, about raising Maya after their father left, about watching their mother slowly forget who they were. She told him about the patients she'd lost, about the babies she'd helped bring into the world, about the dream of one day opening a free clinic for underserved communities. You would be very good at that, Dante said one evening as they walked through a park near the river. Running a clinic. You have the heart for it. I don't have the money for it. Money can be found. What matters is the dream. He stopped walking and turned to face her. When your debt is paid, what will you do? I don't know. I try not to think that far ahead. Think about it now. When you are free of me, what will you do? Naomi looked at this complicated, dangerous man who had somehow become so important to her. I don't know if I want to be free of you, she admitted. Dante's eyes softened. Naomi, I know it's crazy. I know you're dangerous and this whole situation is impossible. But I can't help how I feel. How do you feel? Like I'm falling in love with you. And I don't know if that makes me brave or just stupid. Dante pulled her close, his arms strong and warm around her. Perhaps both, he murmured against her hair. I am falling in love with you too, Bella. And I am definitely being stupid. I have enemies who would hurt you to get to me. I have obligations and responsibilities that will always come first. I cannot give you the normal life you deserve. I don't want normal. I just want you. Then you have me. He pulled back to look at her. But I need you to understand what that means. It means guards following you to protect you. It means keeping secrets and telling careful lies about what I do for a living. It means accepting that there will always be a dark side to my life that you cannot fully be part of. I accept that. And when people judge you for being with me, when your friends and family question your choices, what will you tell them? That I chose you, and I'd choose you again. Dante kissed her then, deep and tender, and Naomi felt the last of her resistance crumble. She had walked into his office months ago, prepared to sacrifice everything for her sister. She hadn't expected to find something worth keeping. By the time spring arrived, Naomi had worked off nearly half of Maya's debt. Dante had arranged for her to work more profitable positions, managing special events, consulting on security for his businesses, even providing medical care for employees who couldn't afford hospital visits. He was creative in finding ways for her to add value, and he paid her fairly for every hour worked. She had also gotten to know more of his world. She met his associates, learned to distinguish between the merely dangerous and the truly evil. She attended family dinners, where his mother made pasta from scratch, and his uncle told stories about the old country. She saw the good he did for the community alongside the morally gray business he ran. It wasn't the life she had imagined for herself, but it was hers, and she was learning to navigate it. The crisis came on a Tuesday in March. Naomi was at the hospital, in the middle of helping a woman through a difficult labor, when her phone started buzzing repeatedly with texts. She couldn't check it until the baby was safely delivered and the new mother was resting comfortably. When she finally looked at her phone, her blood ran cold. 23 messages from Dante, each more urgent than the last. Call me immediately. Naomi, this is important. Your sister is in danger. Call me now. Naomi's hands shook as she dialed. Dante answered on the first ring. Where are you? His voice was tight with tension. At the hospital. What's wrong? What happened to Maya? She was grabbed outside her apartment an hour ago. 3 men in a black SUV. Oh God. Naomi felt like she might throw up. Who took her? Why? Isabella Benedetti. She is trying to force a trade. Maya for her brother Carlo. She says she will hurt your sister. Unless I arrange for Carlo's release from prison. But you can't do that. He's in federal custody. You don't have that kind of power. Exactly. Which means Isabella is either delusional or desperate enough to do something foolish. There was a pause. Or she wants revenge, and Maya is just the excuse. We have to call the police. No police. That was made very clear. If I involve the authorities, Maya dies. Another pause. I have people looking for her. Every resource I have is focused on finding where Isabella is holding her. But Naomi, I need you to be prepared for the possibility that... Don't say it. Naomi was crying now, her professional composure completely shattered. Don't you dare say she might already be dead. I will find her, Dante said, his voice hard with determination. I promise you, I will find her. But I need you to stay where you are, where my people can protect you. Isabella might come after you next. I don't care about me. Just find my sister. I will. And Naomi, I am sorry. This is my fault. If I had dealt with the Benedetti family more permanently when I had the chance. This isn't your fault. It's Maya's debt that started all of this. No. It is my world that has put you both in danger, and I will make it right. The next 6 hours were the longest of Naomi's life. She went through the motions at work, delivering babies and checking patients, but her mind was elsewhere. She kept her phone clutched in her hand, jumping every time it buzzed. Finally, at 11 p.m., Dante called. I found her. Naomi almost collapsed with relief. Is she okay? She is alive and relatively unharmed. My people are bringing her to you now. But Naomi, he hesitated. Isabella is dead. What? How? She resisted when my men came for Maya. There was a struggle. A gun went off. His voice was flat, emotionless. It was self-defense. But Isabella is dead, which means the Benedetti family will want revenge, which means I have escalated a situation that was already dangerous. I don't care about that right now. I just want to see my sister. You will. But after this, things need to change. Maya needs to leave the city. She needs to start over somewhere the Benedetti family cannot find her. And you. What about me? You should consider leaving too. Start that clinic somewhere far from here. I can give you the money, set you up somewhere safe. And leave you? I am offering you a way out, Naomi. A chance to have the life you should have had before your sister's stupidity dragged you into my world. I don't want out. Naomi was surprised by the strength in her own voice. I want you. And I want to help you deal with this mess. Together. This is not your fight. It became my fight the moment I walked into your office and agreed to take on Maya's debt. It became my fight when I fell in love with you. I'm not running, Dante. She heard him take a shaky breath. You are the strongest person I have ever met, he said quietly. And the most foolish. Probably. But I'm yours, if you still want me. Always, Dante said. I will always want you. Maya was traumatized but physically unharmed when Dante's men brought her to the hospital. Naomi held her sister while she cried, listening to her apologize over and over for everything she had done. It's okay, Naomi said, though it wasn't really. You're safe now. That's what matters. But Isabella is dead. And it's because of me. Isabella made her own choices. She chose revenge over reason. The consequences are hers to bear. After Maya was checked over and released, Naomi took her back to Dante's estate, where he had arranged for additional security. The house was massive, a stone mansion with extensive grounds and enough guards to protect a small nation. Dante was waiting in his study when they arrived. He looked exhausted, his usually perfect hair disheveled and dark circles under his eyes. Maya, he said, standing. I am glad you are safe. Thank you for saving me, Maya said, her voice small. I know I don't deserve it after everything I've done. What you deserve and what I will allow to happen to you are two different things. You are important to Naomi, which makes you important to me. But Maya, this situation has become too dangerous. You need to leave the city. I know, Naomi told me. I have arranged for you to go to California. I have business associates there who will help you get established. A job, an apartment, a fresh start, but you must leave tomorrow. Okay. Maya looked at Naomi with tears in her eyes. I'm sorry, Nai. I'm sorry for all of it. For the debt, for putting you in danger, for messing up your life. My life isn't messed up, Naomi said, glancing at Dante. It's just different than I planned, but different isn't always bad. After Maya left to pack the few belongings that had been rescued from her apartment, Dante pulled Naomi into his arms. The Benedetti family will retaliate, he said quietly. They cannot let Isabella's death go unavenged, not without losing face, which means the next few months will be dangerous. Then we face it together. You could still leave. Go with Maya to California. Start over somewhere I cannot put you in danger. And spend the rest of my life wondering if you're okay, worrying every time I see news about violence in the city. No, thank you. Naomi pulled back to look at him. I made my choice, Dante. I chose you. And I don't take that back just because things get hard. You are extraordinary, Dante said, cupping her face in his hands. And I do not deserve you. Probably not. But you have me anyway. He kissed her then, tender and desperate, as if trying to memorize the feel of her. I love you, Naomi Carter. More than I have ever loved anything or anyone. I love you too. And we're going to get through this. Together. The Benedetti family did retaliate. Over the next 2 months, there were attacks on Dante's businesses, attempts on his life, escalating violence that threatened to tear the entire criminal underworld apart. Naomi watched it happen from behind layers of security, unable to do much except be there for Dante when he came home exhausted and bloodied. She also watched him change. He became more ruthless, more calculating, doing whatever was necessary to protect his family and his organization. There were things he did during those months that Naomi knew she could never tell anyone about, moral compromises that would have horrified the woman she used to be. But she understood now. This was survival. This was what it meant to live in Dante's world. The war finally ended on a rainy night in May. Dante came home at 3 a.m., his suit torn and bloodied, but alive. He collapsed into Naomi's arms and told her it was over. The Benedetti family had accepted a negotiated peace. There would be no more attacks, no more attempts at revenge. It is finished, he said, his voice rough with exhaustion. Finally, it is finished. What did you have to do to end it? Naomi asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Things I will never speak about. Things I will carry with me for the rest of my life. He looked at her with haunted eyes. You should leave me, Naomi, while you still can, before my world destroys you too. I'm not going anywhere. I have killed people. I have ordered deaths and destroyed families. How can you still want to be with me? Because I know who you really are. Naomi said, taking his face in her hands. I know that you did what you had to do to protect the people you love. I know that you tried every peaceful option first. I know that you're not a monster, even when you have to do monstrous things. You see me too clearly. Someone has to. Dante kissed her then, deep and desperate, as if she was the only thing keeping him tethered to his humanity. Maybe she was. 3 months later, on a beautiful August evening, Naomi stood in Dante's study and watched him count out the last payment on Maya's debt. $250,000 plus interest, all accounted for. You are free, Dante said, closing the ledger. The debt is paid in full. You no longer work for me, and you no longer owe me anything. Just like that? Naomi asked. Just like that. He looked at her seriously. You have worked tirelessly for over a year. You have endured danger and violence and things that would have broken most people. You have more than earned your freedom. What if I don't want to be free? Dante smiled. Then perhaps we can discuss a different arrangement. One where you work with me instead of for me. Where we build something together. Like what? What? Like that clinic you wanted to open. I have been looking into properties in the neighborhoods that need it most. I can provide the funding, the resources, the protection to make it happen. And you can run it however you see fit. Legitimate, legal, completely separate from my other businesses. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. You would do that? I would do anything for you, Bella. I thought you knew that by now. And us? Our relationship? Dante stood and came around the desk to take her hands. I want you to marry me, he said simply. I want you to be my wife, my partner, the woman I build my life around. But I will not ask until you are truly free to choose. Until you know that you can say no without consequences. I don't need time to think about it, Naomi said. Yes, 1,000 times yes. You are sure? You understand what saying yes means? The world you will be entering, the danger, the moral complexity? I've been living in that world for over a year. I understand exactly what I'm agreeing to. And my answer is still yes. Dante pulled a small box from his desk drawer. Inside was a ring, a simple band of platinum with a single perfect diamond. I have been carrying this for 3 months, he admitted, waiting for the moment when I could ask you properly. Then ask me properly. He got down on one knee, and Naomi had to laugh at the absurdity of this dangerous man looking so uncertain. Naomi Carter, will you marry me? Will you build a life with me? Knowing all that I am and all that I have done. Yes, Naomi said, pulling him to his feet and kissing him. Yes, to all of it. 1 year later, Naomi stood in her clinic, watching as a young mother and her newborn baby prepared to go home. The Carter Community Clinic had been open for 6 months, providing free medical care to families who couldn't afford traditional health care. It was everything Naomi had dreamed of, and more. Dante appeared in the doorway, looking handsome in his suit, though he'd rolled up his sleeves and loosened his tie in deference to the warm September day. Ready to go? He asked. Almost. Just finishing up here. They were heading to dinner at Il Cielo, the restaurant where they had first kissed all those months ago. It had become their tradition. Every Friday night, dinner at the restaurant, celebrating the life they had built together. As they walked out to Dante's car, Naomi thought about how far they had come. Maya was thriving in California, working as a counselor for gambling addiction and rebuilding her life. Their mother was stable in her care facility, with the best possible treatment thanks to Dante's resources. The clinic was serving hundreds of families and changing lives every day. And Naomi herself had found something she never expected. Love in the darkest of places, partnership with the most complicated of men, and a life that was imperfect, but undeniably hers. What are you thinking about? Dante asked as they drove through the city. About how I walked into your office planning to sacrifice myself to save my sister, and I ended up finding everything I never knew I wanted. Dante reached over and took her hand. Your sister owed me everything, he said, echoing the words he had spoken that first night. But you, Bella, you gave me everything. My heart, my hope, my future. You saved me in ways I did not know I needed saving. We saved each other, Naomi corrected. That's what love does. Yes, Dante agreed, bringing her hand to his lips. That is exactly what love does. That's the story of Naomi Carter, the nurse who traded herself for her sister's freedom and ended up finding a love that transformed them both. Her story proves that sometimes the biggest sacrifices lead to the greatest rewards, that love can bloom in the darkest places, and that family is worth fighting for, even when the cost seems impossibly high. Naomi and Dante's love story reminds us that people are more than their worst mistakes, that redemption is possible even in the most unlikely circumstances, and that real love requires both courage and compromise. They built a life together on a foundation of honesty, mutual respect, and the shared belief that they could make each other better than they were alone. If this incredible story moved you, and you want to hear more amazing tales of unexpected protection, dangerous romance, and love that conquers all obstacles, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. We share new stories every week about real people who discovered that heroes come in complicated packages, and that sometimes the most meaningful relationships begin with the most difficult sacrifices. What did you think of Naomi and Dante's story? Have you ever had to make an impossible choice for someone you love? Would you have taken on your sister's debt? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing how these stories resonate with your own experiences of family, sacrifice, and unexpected love. Remember, sometimes the person who saves you is the one you least expect. And sometimes the most dangerous choice leads to the safest love. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next story.